The city was suffocating me. The constant noise, the endless concrete, the feeling of being just another face in a sea of millions. My partner, Alex, felt it too. We yearned for something slower, something real. That's when we found it. A tiny town nestled in a valley, a place called Havenwood. It was perfect. Quaint houses with white picket fences, a single main street, and a community where everyone seemed to know each other. It felt like stepping back in time. We bought a charming little cottage at the edge of town, right where the forest began to whisper its secrets. The first few weeks were pure bliss. We'd spend our days hiking, our evenings on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky. But then, we started noticing something odd. It was the streetlights. Every night, exactly at 10 p.m., they would begin to turn off. But not all at once. It started at the far end of town and went out one by one, like a slow, deliberate countdown, getting closer and closer to our house. The first time we saw it happen, we thought it was just a quirky, power-saving measure. Kind of cool, right? Alex had said, and I agreed. It was unique. But as the days turned into weeks, the pattern became unsettling. The darkness didn't just fall, it crept. Each extinguished light felt like a held breath, a step closer. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, expectant. I tried asking our neighbors about it. I brought a freshly baked apple pie to Mrs. Gable next door. She was a sweet old woman with eyes that held 1,000 stories. When I mentioned the lights, a strange film came over her expression. "Oh, that's just how things are done here, dear," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "It's tradition. You get used to it." She quickly changed the subject, asking about our garden. Everyone we asked gave us a similar, vague answer. It's just the Havenwood way. The politeness was there, but it felt like a wall. One night, we decided to stay up and watch the whole sequence. We sat by our living room window as the wave of darkness rolled down the street. One light, then another, then another. The final light on our block, right outside our window, was the last to go. The moment it blinked out, the world outside plunged into an inky blackness that felt absolute. And in that total darkness, we started hearing things. Faint whispers that seemed to ride the wind, the rustle of leaves when there was no breeze, the distinct snap of a twig just beyond our fence. Alex tried to rationalize it. It's an old town, honey. Old pipes, wind in the trees, animals. But we both knew it was more than that. The sounds were too rhythmic, too close. One night, a shadow flickered past our window right after the last light went out. It was too fast, too tall to be an animal. My heart hammered against my ribs. Alex grabbed my hand, his knuckles white. "Did you see that?" he whispered. I could only nod, my throat too tight to speak. We started locking our doors and windows an hour before the lights went out. We drew the curtains tight, but that only made it worse. The feeling of being watched was suffocating. The whispers seemed to seep through the walls. We started hearing faint scratching sounds on the outside of the house, like fingernails dragging on wood. Sleep became a luxury we couldn't afford. We were both jumpy, exhausted, shadows of our former selves. The idyllic small town had become our own private prison. We knew we couldn't live like this. We had to understand what was happening. Alex, ever the pragmatist, suggested we investigate the source. The power grid, the town hall records. There has to be a logical explanation, he insisted. I wasn't so sure. This felt older than logic, deeper than electricity. But we had to do something. Our next stop was the town's historical society, a dusty building that smelled of old paper and forgotten secrets. The historical society was run by a man named Mr. Abernathy, who seemed as ancient as the artifacts he guarded. We told him we were researching the town's electrical history. He looked at us over his spectacles. A flicker of something was at pity in his eyes. He led us to a back room filled with leather-bound ledgers. "Everything you want to know about Havenwood is in here," he said, his voice a dry rustle. "But be warned, some histories are better left unread." We spent hours poring over the brittle pages. We found records of the town's founding, of festivals, of births and deaths. And then we found it. A journal from the early 1900s, written by the town's first electrician. His early entries were full of pride about bringing light to Havenwood. But then the tone shifted. It wrote about the watchers in the woods, the ancient ones who despised light. He described a pact. The townspeople had made a deal long ago with whatever lived in the surrounding forest. According to the journal, these beings would protect the town, ensure its prosperity. But in return they demanded one thing: the darkness. They require the night to be theirs, completely and utterly. The sequence of the lights going out wasn't a power-saving measure. It was a ritual, a nightly offering of darkness, a signal that the town was surrendering the night. The final light going out was the official invitation for them to walk the streets. The whispers, the scratching, the shadows. It was them. They were the tradition Mrs. Gable spoke of. Te were te, Havenwood way. We looked at each other, the dusty air in the room suddenly cold and heavy. The journal ended abruptly. The last entry was a frantic scrawl. They know I know. The light outside my house just went out. They're here. A cold dread washed over us. This wasn't a ghost story. It was a warning. Mr. Abernathy stood in the doorway. "You see now," he said softly. "To live in Havenwood is to honor the pact. You don't talk about them. You don't look for them. You lock your doors, you draw your curtains, and you wait for the sun." That night, knowing what we knew, was the most terrifying of all. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves was no longer a mystery. It was a confirmation. The final light went out, and the silence that followed was deafening. We didn't dare look outside. We just sat, huddled together in the center of the room, listening, waiting. The scratching sounds came, louder this time, more insistent. We could hear them circling the house. It felt like they knew we had uncovered their secret. They were testing the walls, testing our resolve. We couldn't stay. We knew that with a certainty that chilled us to the bone. The next morning, as the first rays of sun chased the last of the shadows away, we started packing. We threw everything we could into our car, not caring about what we left behind. Our dream home had become a nightmare. As we were about to leave, Mrs. Gable came out onto her porch. She didn't look surprised. She just gave a sad little wave. "Some people aren't meant for the quiet life," she called out, her voice full of an old, sad understanding. We drove away without looking back. We watched Havenwood shrink in the rearview mirror until it was gone. We never told anyone the real reason we left. Who would believe us? They'd just think we were crazy. But we know what we saw. We know what we heard. Sometimes, even now, in the safety of a new city, when I see a streetlight flicker, my heart stops. I remember the creeping darkness, the whispers on the wind, and the pact that Havenwood keeps every single night, one streetlight at a time. Thanks for sticking with me through that story. It's a reminder that sometimes the most peaceful-looking places hide the deepest secrets. If you enjoy tales of the strange and unexplained, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had an experience you just couldn't explain. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.